What's going on, Perform24 family? I hope you guys are crushing it. We are now in the second week of December. I hope you guys are stamping 2021 out strong, finish strong, right? If we haven't met yet, my name is Levi. I run a gym here in Tampa, Florida, and then I make YouTube videos in my garage with my internet friends when I have time. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking back at the last 12 months or so of my training because as a regular 31-year-old dude, I have put 115 pounds on my back squat in the last 12 months. And while that's not a huge jump for some people, I know a lot of people have made a lot more progress than that in a year. But I think for as much attention, or maybe I should say as little attention as I put on it, I think that's a pretty significant gain. And when it's all said and done, that's almost a 40% increase from where I started. So again, like I'm a normal, average 31-year-old dude that did kind of highlight the back squat over the last 12 months and got some excellent results from that. So the timeline here is going to be October to October, October 2020 to October 2021. And let's kind of dive into this. Okay, if you guys have been following me for a while, you might know part of this story. So I've made videos kind of on individual like checkpoints along this timeline, but I've never done a full video on how the whole 12 months has gone. So this is kind of connecting all those dots and painting the complete picture for you. All right, so in 2020, in September of 2020, I decided that I was gonna participate in Squattober. A couple of my friends have done it over the last couple of years. I had never done it before. And so I wanted to increase my back squat. I thought that my back squat was lacking a little bit. I was not a natural good squatter. I squatted as a former D1 athlete. But once I finished my athletic career, I stopped squatting. I still trained legs hard, but I would typically choose different exercises. And so I felt like the back squat for me was an inadequate strength level, and so I wanted to kind of emphasize that. So I tested in September of 2020, so I had an accurate max going into Squattober, and I tested at 300 pounds, okay? So 300 pounds was my initial back squat max. And again, I'm like 205 pounds, okay? So I'm not like a small dude. I'm not a ginormous dude either. But I'm 205 pounds. I was 205 pounds in 2020. I'm 205 now, so my body weight hasn't changed at all. But I participated in Squattober, followed the Squattober programming, and I finished Squattober 2020 with a max of 335 pounds, okay? So I jumped 35 pounds in that first month of training my squat. For the month of November and for the month of December, I didn't follow a strict program, but I kind of carried some of those things that I learned in the Squattober programming with me. And again, you'll kind of see this, like I kind of float in and out of like structured programming and then like a little bit more free. I personally do very well in that. Sometimes I need room to be creative. I need room to try new things and I need room to experiment, okay? So I'll follow a strict program and then I'll kind of deviate and do my own thing and mess with things. And then all of it, whether I'm following a program or just kind of playing around in the weight room, all of that does trickle back into my regular work life, my programming life, my coach life, okay? Starting in January 2021, I did start following another strict program. And this was like a 10 or 12 week program, and it was another percentage-based strength training program. And it was intense again, so the percentages were pretty high. So I was getting quite a bit of load and quite a bit of stimulus on that back squat. That program did vary week to week. It wasn't quite as linear as some of the other programs that I followed. So I was squatting 1 or 2 times a week for the first part of 2021. On the day that I tested my max squat, or my max back squat after that initial 10-week program, I changed the bar positioning on my back. And so I switched from a high bar to a low bar squat on the day that I tested, okay? So obviously this is not the way that you want to do things. On a max day, that's the worst day possible to change things. But I was changing things, I felt good. And again, I'm just a regular dude. I'm not like competing in like a powerlifting competition or CrossFit competition or anything, so it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter. So I felt comfortable switching to that low bar, and so I went for it. And I did reset my 1RM from 335 to 365. So I jumped up another 30 pounds in my back squat, despite changing my bar positioning that day. Okay, I would recommend you don't do that. Stick to the movement pattern that you're familiar with, but whatever, it worked out. And I've kept that new low bar squat position throughout. So I haven't changed it yet, and that's what I'm gonna plan on using moving forward, just because it does actually feel a lot better to me. All right, so I reset my max back squat in March. And that's about the time that I started building out this space, okay? So April, May, June, and July were pretty much spent almost full-time training in here. And when I built out the garage space, that was the first time that I haven't trained at my gym in 6 or 7 years, okay? Every single workout that I've had over the last 6 or 7 years has been in that location until moving here, okay? And you guys know this if you train regularly, like you fall into patterns, right? And some of them are conscious and some of them are subconscious, but changing locations is a big adjustment. And one thing that I noticed that when I started training here is that it kind of like sparked some new creativity, okay? It's the first time I've been in a different environment. I'm working with different equipment in here. It's very similar to how I train at the gym, obviously, but just kind of having some equipment limitations, a little bit of space limitations, and then also just being able to focus on my training at 100%. You know, when I'm at the gym, I'm kind of like sort of focused on my training and then also sort of focus either on the people that are in or, you know, that's my workplace, right? This is my training space, and it kind of like shifted my mindset a little bit. And so I started training in like kind of different ways than I have in the past. I was squatting regularly, but I wasn't squatting super intense. But the thing that I did do very frequently that I think does matter is that I was rucking, okay? So I was rucking pretty heavily all throughout the summer of 2021. And I made an entire video on the crossover between strength training and rucking. And I kind of was connecting those dots this summer. So even though I wasn't getting like under the bar and really loading it up on my back squat, I think the time under tension and just the load on my body through the regular rucking that I was doing, and I was doing that, you know, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. I would use that as like a mile ruck would be my warm up for my training session. But, you know, working all that core and postural and positioning musculature and then still getting load vertically on my body for an extended period of time, I think that that helped maintain my back squat even though I wasn't squatting very frequently. So I think that was important, and I think that that is noteworthy enough to mention in this video. So, you know, I was squatting. I wasn't squatting that heavy, but I was rucking quite a bit. I think the biggest ruck that I went on was 5 miles with 55 pounds. So that's a pretty strenuous ruck. Now we're getting into like the fall-ish of 2021. And if you guys, again, if you follow me, you might know what's coming. But in August, my family and I got COVID pretty bad. We got smacked in the face pretty hard by it, and I didn't train at all for the month of August. I didn't train my muscular system for the month of August. As I started to kind of come back a little bit and started to get over the sickness, the only thing that I cared about was my conditioning, okay? So I spent a lot of time on the bike and a lot of time getting my metabolic capacity back, but I didn't want to add stress to my body, more stress to my body, more stress to my central nervous system, and so I wasn't stressing my muscular system at all. That did not matter to me for the month of August. And it's kind of like a lost training month, honestly, because I didn't get under the bar one time for the month of August. Now, one thing that I did do in the month of August is I did decide that I was going to participate in Squattober again. So I knew that the month of October was going to be a big blitz for my back squat. And I also decided in August that I wanted to kind of mess around with a weight belt. So I did order a weightlifting belt. And then I started playing around with that in September. And I've never worn a weight belt in my entire life. So even back in like my competitive athletic days, I did not use a weight belt. And so putting that belt on for the first time felt very weird. If you haven't used one, there definitely is a learning curve. But I wanted to just mess with it, okay? So in September, I decided to retest my max back squat for the first time since March, okay? So it had been most of the year without testing it. And I tested out at 355 pounds. So 10 pounds off my all-time PR, but I knew when I hit that 355 pounds that I had more in the tank. So I decided to use 355 as my training max for the month of Squattober. I decided to roll with it. Obviously, like I hadn't been training heavy for a while. So I took that as a win. And I kind of used that to have like a high ceiling to make a lot of progress for the month of October. All right, so jumping into October 2021, which brings us a full calendar year from the starting point of this journey on October 2020. But October 2021, I went back to squatting every single day on a percentage-based program. I also started playing around with the belt. And I had an amazing month of training. That's probably one of the best months of training that I've ever had in my entire life. And I posted a new PR at 415 pounds at the end of October 2021. So going from 300 pounds to 415 pounds in 12 months of training is a pretty big deal for me, especially considering, like I said, I kind of followed a structured program, and then I would kind of do my own thing, and then I would come back to a program, and then I would do my own thing. So yes, that was an emphasis over the last 12 months, but I was certainly not stressing out about it or freaking out about it or tweaking or micromanaging my back squat. It just kind of happened over the course of the 12 months. All right, so that's kind of the overview picture of how I put 115 pounds on my back squat. Again, like I said, I'm just an average dude. Yes, I do train frequently. Yes, obviously I have access to great training facilities, and I'm in a gym frequently, which kind of helps from a time management side. But I'm still I still run a business. You know, I still am a dad. I still am a husband. I've got 2 crazy kids that take up a ton of time. So, you know, I'm living a pretty average life, I would say. And I just put time into the weight room and time under the bar for 12 months. And honestly, this is kind of what happened, okay? So I wanted to share that. And another cool thing is that I have all the footage, okay? So I started filming a lot of my training last October, and so I've got all this footage from the last year that kind of helps, you know, paint that picture and really draw that roadmap for you. So, you know, if you're somebody in my position that has a very normal American life, I think that it's possible to make at least the progress that I made, and probably even more than what I made, if you just put a little bit of effort and a lot of consistency really into your training. If you guys like videos like this, please let me know. Doing kind of recap videos like this are always a lot of fun, just because that's the kind of guy I am, right? I like to observe where I've been, and then kind of encapsulate that and reflect on that, and then plan where I want to go next. So if this is a video that does interest you, please let me know. Obviously, a subscription goes a long ways as well. So if you hit subscribe, appreciate you guys. That's going to wrap up today's video. As always, train hard, live full, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.